All right. Hello. Here we are again with the Active Breath podcast, Miller Voice Method MVM podcast, take 2. My name is Kyle Cameron. I am one of your co-hosts here with my other co-host, whose name is
Scott Miller.
There he is. And we have a special guest this evening. We have Sarin Monae, or is it Sarin Monae West? What do I call you tonight?
Yeah, you can call me Sarin Monae. I go by both, though. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So nice to have you. So, Sarin, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us a bit about who you are and why you might be on this particular podcast this evening.
Yes. So I'm Sarin Monae. I'm an actor, working in producer, and I'm working in New York City. And I think I was invited here today because I am both a former student of Scott's, and I'm also currently in training in the Miller Voice Method as a certified teacher.
Yeah. And I'm curious about this. I don't know if this has had any effect on it, but we had a session on Zoom.
We did.
You were looking for a little bit of help. You were working on a show, and we had a little Zoom session last summer, I think.
A year ago, early 2025. Yeah,
okay,
I was
okay.
Yeah, I was working on a project and just feeling a lot of just vocal habits that were not helping me. It was like turning into a little bit of a block between me and the character that I felt was just like kind of, I don't know, it just something wasn't quite sitting right. I have a tendency to play very like high octane characters or that are going through a lot of duress, and I just needed a little bit of help like managing where that tension was living in my body. And Kyle, because we not only had we been roommates, but also because I knew that you were in depth and working deeply with this work. I hit you up and you were so gracious in helping me just reconnect and reconnect to the work, and also opened up. I think that must have been early seeds of me being interested in being certified. I had completely forgotten about that.
Yeah.
I had completely forgotten, but when that seed definitely was planted then. And
amazing.
As actors, this work is so funny because sometimes there's a job and sometimes there isn't a job. And then when there is a job, trying to manage how to do the job always ends up being kind of a thing that I find myself, a cycle that I find myself in very often.
Yeah.
And so, I reached out to Scott because I was interested in diving in a little bit more deeply and in a way that felt more like I had a little bit of time, away from the training. And I found that the things that I was holding on to were mostly things from Scott's work and a couple of other teachers as well. But it's the work that I tend to lean on the most when I'm feeling stuck.
MVM.
Yeah, is MVM.
Sarin, I'm curious as to you had said something about the feeling that something wasn't sitting right. I'm paraphrasing, and then you kind of connected that to tension. What's that relationship? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I think there's a part of just my conditioning that where when I feel like I'm not quite sure what's going on or how to manage what's on my plate, I tend to grip that oh, hold on for dear life, because if the sled goes any faster, oh no, what could happen? And I find again and again, as though I have amnesia, like again and again, that that releasing and allowing always creates more space for usually it's more exciting work than I could have possibly mustered through squeezing tighter and holding on tighter. So, yeah.
And how do you know it's more exciting? Like, what does that actually mean?
I know it's more exciting because on the other end of it, I'll have a moment where something will suddenly hit me differently, or I'm suddenly available in a different way than I wasn't before. And the things that happen are like surprising and outside of what I could have possibly pre-planned by myself while doing like text work on my script by myself. I think it in those moments where I'm feeling stuck and gripping, and trying to hold on for dear life, I think my fear is kind of guiding a lot more of my choices instead of what I find and what I prefer. I prefer to work as an actor in a space of being more available and more open, because what I plan by myself in my room or with my script, or the ideas that I'm like, oh, I'm so brilliant for this, like those moments, those moments are just ultimately less exciting. And actually what I found in the laboratory of this work, being gifted the opportunity to be able to practice this work while acting, is that the ideas that I had that I brought to the rehearsal room that ended up sticking are actually harder to commit to over time. Like over a long run, they're much harder to commit to consistently than the things that I found from a space of spontaneity and openness and availability, even if I didn't, usually because I didn't pre-plan it, and because it's coming out of a space of surprise and delight and from a space of flow. That moment will always hit me like, oh, that was different. That wasn't something.
Where did that come from?
Well, yeah, exactly. Like then those moments I think are so precious as an actor.
I mean, this is a question for both of you because both of you are working actors. Why do you think it is less sustainable to, stick with the thing that doesn't necessarily require you to be available, which we'll call the rehearsed, the planned, the tried and true, the part that allows you to phone it in a little bit and not really listen in a reactive and readable way?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I sort of live in the question of that. I'm not sure that I 100% believe that is 100% true all the time. Do you know what I mean? I think that, I had an interesting experience working on this show in the fall, The Hills of California, where I had a large cast. And it's so interesting being such a convert to this work and to that kind of sense of aliveness and availability that it offers, and seeing, other people using other methods. And, I'm not going to name any names. I'm not going to critique anyone's performance or anything like that. But there are elements that I think are run of what they were doing that sort of run a little bit counter to what I'm doing. Let's say some people were living a little bit more in like the rehearsal. And I think they do think it's more sustainable. So I find that tension really, really interesting. What do you feel about that, Sarin?
Yeah, I mean, of course, like I've done a combination of like musicals and plays. And I think there are times when I think this example is helpful. Like there are times when you just have to hit the note where you just, that's the note on the page. You have to hit the note because that's what is happening. But I do find that the combination of beats, like if you find this is the climax of the play, so it needs to be a certain way, or it has to come out a certain way because there's a lighting cue that's associated with a certain change or whatever. Like there are certain things that do need to happen in the order in which they were decided upon collectively in rehearsal or decided upon by the director. But as much freedom as is possible it tends to be a lot more exciting for me because then I'm allowing myself to go into a state of flow, trusting that with rehearsal and with some craft, the ability to stay present and to fill even those more choreographed moments. They feel more, it just they feel more spontaneous, even if they're not. And I find that the amalgamation of more spontaneous moments over the course of a thing feels more satisfying to me as an actor, selfishly, but also it tends to kind of permeate this sense of like anything could happen at any moment, which always tends to fuel me more as an actor. And then I'm listening better to my scene partner, even if what I'm receiving from them is the exact same every night, no matter what.
Right.
Yeah, so that's...
And that gets back to sustainability, right? Fuel and sustainability can be linked for sure.
Yeah, and even if I am receiving the same thing from an actor every night, like exactly the same melodic, the same rhythm, the same tempo, like everything, it somehow convincing myself that anything could happen makes even those moments feel more alive to me. And I'm hoping, my wish is that also translates to the audience experience, because that's really what we're there. That's what we're there to serve them, and to deliver the story to them as though it is for the first time.
Yeah. And I would call that desire, right? That sense of sending with a desire to receive something, creates that suspense, that mystery, that aliveness. So on some level, it doesn't really matter if what you receive is what you expect or don't expect, but the part that you have some agency over, which is living in, sending, and then having an expectation or a desire to receive something is as far as you can go, is as far as the individual actor can actually go. They can't make the other person do anything, actually, right? And then when you get the other two actors or more, or one actor with themselves alone on stage doing that constantly in pursuit of something, it then creates a really creates an opportunity for the audience to pursue with them on some level, right? It's funny. I'm hearing you both speak about this, and I'm thinking back at one of the greatest lessons I learned was one of my first coaching experiences with the late director Kenneth Washington, and at the end of the 5 or 6 weeks, he went over to the chalkboard and he drew two vertical lines next to each other, and he said, okay, this is the railroad track that we've been creating for the last 6 weeks. Now, within these two lines, you can go anywhere you want within these two lines, and you will still be telling the story that we agreed to, right? And when we work with younger actors, my fear is when they hear things like spontaneity and being alive and being, that they think there's no anchoring or obligation to tell the story, right? But actually, it's just the opposite. It's once you've done all that work to create the contract of what the story is between yourself and your fellow actors, then you get to play within the those two lines and still tell the story. And I think that's what this work is. The availability and along with the responsibility of telling the story can actually go hand in hand. They don't have to be one or the other.
Yeah. Speaking of telling stories, I want to give Sarin a moment to tell us about a project that they have coming up. Very curious to hear about this.
Yay. So I'm going to be playing Titus Lartius, who is the right-hand person of Coriolanus in The Tragedy of Coriolanus. It's a Shakespeare play that will be at Theater for a New Audience beginning February 1st until March 1st. And it is being directed by Ash K. Tata, who, just to circle back to what you were talking about, Scott, the railroad track idea, I really I'm appreciating right now how much time we are taking in table work. We're definitely moving slowly through the play, kind of beat by beat and moment by moment, and creating space where the entire room, the cast of 14 people, can be in agreement on the world that we're building, so that that railroad track is not so much determined by Ash having this brilliant idea of Coriolanus and kind of breaking it apart, but that actually by decentering their own presence and their own kind of influence in the room, we are given agency as actors to actually create a communal agreement about what the world is, and as we're tightening those railroad tracks, we're building a world that the entire room has had agency over creating together collectively, which is an experience as an actor that I'm finding that I really prefer to some other experiences where those railroad tracks are dictated by more external circumstances or power dynamics that create tension inside my body. I'm like, oh, we've built this world in agreement with one another, and so it'll be easier to find our way through it without completely derailing the vision. Yeah.
It can take so much work to bring it back to those railroad tracks if it gets derailed, right? In a performance or in something like that, it can really, and that's where a lot of this tension buildup can come from, for sure.
Yeah,
that's cool. I mean,
that's a relatively new skill set. I mean, new in the last 20 years, because, when I was growing up, you had the coach or the manager or the director or whoever was the person holding the centralized sense of power, and either you followed along or you found another job or another team or another thing, and so the person who was good at handling that kind of authority usually had some longevity. Good meaning responsible, had some longevity. And as we've over the last 20, 30 years moved more into the iPhone instead of the Wii phone era, it's really now about the individual. And I think about the sports, how coaches had to really find a way, because all we're talking about is buy-in at the end of the day, right? Getting a group of humans to agree and buy into a vision, a path, a plan. And now it's a lot more about the individual bringing their own agency to the group dynamic, and the coach and the leader that can actually create that kind of community dynamic, where we're much more attuned to thinking about ourselves in a team-oriented environment. So not to strip the individual of that agency, but also to invite them into the community experience, into exactly what you were saying, Sarin, to create communally buy-in towards this mission is just a relatively new skill set. So there's just not a lot of people that are very good at doing that. And then when you find that happening, it's like, wow, that's pretty incredible,
Yeah, it feels pretty magical. Go ahead.
Do you? I'm curious about this idea of it being a new skill set. Do you think it's a skill set people have not traditionally had, or do you think it's a skill set that people have traditionally had, but they didn't traditionally get these jobs? Like, is it a shift in skill, or is it a shift in value? I wonder.
I mean, maybe a bit of both. I just there's just so many more things to pay attention to today than there was 30 years ago. And there's just so many, there's the perception of so many more choices. Now we can, have long conversations about whether they're actual choices or not, and that's true or not. But the perception as to what keeps hooking people's attention, kind of dressed up as a choice, more to manage, think about, and then the if you think about sports, unlike arts, I would say, but in the arts it's the bigger budget movies, and so there's a lot of things to attend to. So then it becomes as much of management skills, and people. I think maybe that's it. It's the combination of management skills with people skills, and now the leader is most of the time asked to be able to be good at both on some level, That's interesting. And I think that is a newer phenomenon,
Sarin, I'm curious, in delving back into the MVM work because you're a student in the certification program. How does this version of encountering the work compare to, your memory of doing it in grad school? Are there any elements of it that are resonating with you, either in the cert program or that you're applying in your professional work now that maybe you had, that you forgot about, or things that are like echoes down the way from the grad school experience?
Yeah, well, I think, when I think back to my grad school experience, I can't believe that I graduated 5 years ago. That is or almost 6 years ago now. That is what? What in the time jump? I'm oh my God, I'm old. What happened? And simultaneously, I also still feel 20 years old, or younger most of the time. But yeah, I think the beautiful gift of grad school for me was being able to spend 3 years uninterrupted on constant craft. It's really being able to isolate and just dive in and only have the majority of my focus, besides laundry and groceries, really being my training and the work and regular practice built in. In graduate school, we were given a Google Calendar that was chock full, but it was a Google Calendar that somebody else created. Thank you, Giselle. Thank you, Paige. That was all organized and with regular deadlines. And there's something that I'm learning as I've been out of school and built my own kind of care plans and my own programs and tried different things and gone back into different trainings, and that I'm learning I work really well with some of those structures that are much, much harder to build for myself than they were when I was just being handed a schedule. So I think that is really the biggest shift, and knowing what my next job is going to be, and knowing I'm going to get to act tomorrow, and knowing that I have a play to look forward to, and having that schedule basically be set 9 months ahead of time. If we're working on a project in May, that schedule was built before we got to school in September. And so that is one of, I was able to have a lot more preciousness that I did not appreciate as much as I wish I had.
Yes.
And at the same time, being able to have agency over how I spend my time and what I put my focus on and what is getting my attention when, and when things take too much attention, how to divert and redirect and restructure is a challenge that I am really diving into. And also I have been given ample opportunity in the world to be able to practice. Going back into the cert work, not only refamiliarizing myself with the method and the technique and making time to practice while also being in rehearsal and going from which rehearsal and other jobs. And, it's just a little bit more chaotic than it was for me in grad school.
Less concentrated.
But the foundation I found is much more there than I anticipated it being. Knowing that my body does remember a lot more than my brain does. And so just setting aside dedicated time, not only to revisit the technique itself, but also trying to practice what it means to communicate those ideas to new people has been a huge challenge. I know Scott's on this chat with us, but I'm not going to be shy about it.
Yes.
I know he can hear us. But it's been much more challenging than I anticipated, having to actually intentionally carve out the space to be able to practice, and also not discrediting the practice that I can do just walking around and being an alive human in the world.
Oh man.
There's so many opportunities to just drop in. How's my lower third doing? Are my ribs moving? Is this active breath? Am I holding? If so, how and when? And instead of being in a more kind of clinical class setting constantly, where everybody is in training around me, learning the same things and applying the same things with the teacher kind of watching. It's been really interesting being able to practice out in the wild in a way that I wasn't. Yeah. I wasn't practicing in the wild in school because I was in school the whole time. And I needed a break when we were having breaks. And so
yes,
having both the gift of training and being able to go on stage and practice things on stage, like practice my active breath when I'm in a scene where I'm listening for the majority of the time, is something that I think it felt less integrated in grad school. And because I've kind of had a little bit of a preliminary base knowledge and then trying to build upon it, I'm seeking practice everywhere. I'm taking as many opportunities as possible to integrate and to also think about and analyze and embody as much of the technique as possible for the purpose of being able to share it with others, which is also, I mean, in grad school, I think there was a big focus on me and how am I doing this and am I doing well and am I the best actor ever because I can apply this technique, as opposed to now I'm like, wait, it's actually not about me. Exactly. Yeah. I'm like, it's not about me. It's about being able to give it away.
Yes.
And that has been a real gift. Yeah.
It's so funny listening to you speak about that. I also think about you hear this a lot in school, whether it's acting school or maybe any kind of embodiment school, but that sense of be curious, stay curious. And of course, curiosity means that you don't actually know something, which is a funny state to be in when you're trying to show your teachers that you know things, but you should stay in the state of not knowing something and really, be vulnerable to that. So, but it's like every single day you're being asked and you're also trying to soak in intentionally and blah, blah, blah. But then when you leave and you go out to, your life and that kind of demand is not on you every single day, then it really becomes your own decision when you want to be curious or how you want to be curious and where you want to play with this and how you want to test it out and when you don't want to and no one's around you saying, come on, do it again, or, judging how you did it.
Go deeper.
It's like it creates a kind of maturity. Because it's really your choice to play.
Autonomy.
And maybe some of that play that we're so desperate for in school just organically returns,
Well, and it's sort of the same mechanism in a play, right? We've already talked about the railroad tracks and how you have to be beholden to the story in a certain kind of way, beholden to your scene partner and the lighting cues and all that kind of stuff. There becomes a similar impulse in an actor to show up and show my rehearsal, show my work, show that I know what I'm doing, show that I'm the greatest actor ever, right? And I think this technique for me has I wouldn't say that I've let go of all of that stuff, but it allows me to live more presently in the experience of telling that story in the same way that you're trying to let go of it as a student in school. I find that on stage. It allows me that on stage too.
Yeah. And that vulnerability, that openness, like the availability that you were talking about, Scott, it is a choice. I mean, it really is a choice to open up and be like, okay, what if I know all the lines probably in the whole, like the last project that I was working on was Richard II at Astor Place Theater with Red Bull Theater. And I was playing a Bushy who dies in the first act. And then I came back as like a gardener. And then I came back as a lord. And I had like a 20-minute listening scene and being able to have the choice of, and I think I realized in some of those scenes, because that was hard to rehearse. Yeah. I'm sorry. Like, even though the work that was happening was tremendous and very exciting, after you've heard that same scene 20 times before we've even gotten an audience, finding new ways to stay invested or to just wait for the scene to be over is like, it really does become a choice that I'm making to say, okay, what if anything could happen? What if it could be different? What is different tonight? What is different tonight? And I don't have to pretend. I don't have to put anything on. I'm just like available in a different way every day. And even though I don't have lines, that really is a choice. Like I can either zone out and be like, I'm tired, what's for dinner? Or I can say, oh, that's different. And just that I don't know, it's like a weird off-on switch that I'm learning I have a lot more agency over than I did even before working on the teacher training. And I'm like, oh, I actually do have a choice about where I'm putting my focus. And in this moment, I'm going to put my focus on my breath, and I'm just going to be curious about what's being passed between the people.
Yeah. I think
tiny ways in which it might be different,
Yeah.
That can't be stressed enough, this idea that nothing can ever be the same.
Yes.
Right. And it can look the same, it can feel the same, whatever that word means, but that's just a delusion that we are under. It's to survive on some level, really, because to examine every incrementally different, element of every moment would be probably an act of insanity, and we wouldn't be able to do anything in our world, right?
Yeah.
So we create this kind of vision that things look the same and things are the same, and then we build expectations around them, and we anticipate and all these things. But actually, nothing is ever the same moment to moment. Yeah. Nothing can ever be repeated the exact same way on a molecular level. So it's not like that old Meisner quote, acting is this, what is it? Acting is as if it were for the first time, or something to that regard. But the truth is, everything is always for the first time. So then it's just about how close or far you want the microscope to operate, and how much you want to pay attention, or, to your point, Sarin, how much do you want to be involved in the newness of every moment of your life, becomes the question. And that is a choice,
That's
at
good.
the end of the day. Yeah.
And there are moments like, in commuting on the train where someone's staring at me across the, where I'm like, I actually don't want to be available to the newness of this moment.
Absolutely.
I would rather check out completely and just dissociate until I get to my train stop, because it actually, what I'm finding, just to circle back to your earlier question, Kyle, is that I'm finding the biggest difference between where I am in my training now and where I was in my training during grad school is that my dial is becoming more finely tuned, in a way that feels intentional, and that is like awesome. It's so cool. And also, I'm giving myself some grace. Yeah, my willingness to allow myself to be aware of the newness. There are moments usually when I'm in an audition, or when I'm in, on set or on stage, where I want that full and open availability constantly. And yet, if I were to move out into the world with full and constant availability, like, there's different risks involved there.
Much different. Yeah.
Much different risks. Yeah. And my wish is that I can be more open and available, not only on stage, but also in my life, and with some discretion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to get too pedantic about it, but the podcast is called Active Breath. I have found just the literal tool of active breath to be that switch for me. The awareness of when I am in a flow state of constant movement, no holding at the top, no holding at the bottom. That is essentially the definition of active breath. And it's something that in this work, we develop the awareness of when we are holding and when we are stepping out of that active breath, and how to sort of release and drop back into it. I have found that it has affected my personal relationships a lot as well. Like I'm a talker, I'm a sentence finisher, I'm a know-it-all, frankly. And I have been able to use this tool to just sort of inhibit that impulse. And I think it has made me a better listener and a better conversation partner. Are you finding this work to be infiltrating your personal life as well as your professional?
Totally. Yeah. I'm an interrupter for sure. Oh my God. And such a smart ass, like yikes. But also, I mean, I don't know. And it definitely, it has given me the ability to listen more deeply and to also articulate my thoughts and needs in a more direct and concise way. But it also demands a lot of bravery. Like I'm still, I guess, because I'm I have a little bit less practice at active breath than you both do. I think I'm still in a space right now where I get to remind myself to be brave and to allow the breath in. And so I feel like that's a training wheel that I'm really looking forward to not needing anymore. But for right now, I'm like, no, it's okay. Keep breathing. Like let it in and out, reset, that kind of thing. So, but it's making me check in with myself a lot more in my day-to-day life in a way that I think I've had years where I just haven't. Like I'm like, just go, just get to the next thing and do it. And then inevitably I'll find myself in like in an approaching burnout place where I'm like, oh my God, I didn't say what I needed because I said yes to this thing when I was not really holding my breath and truly just trying to people please or trying to make it to the next thing. And it's helped me just figure out how to say no more and how to take a beat before making a decision so that I'm genuinely inhaling and exhaling, checking in with myself and starting from that place before doing, instead of doing first and breathing later.
I'm curious, Scott, do you think that training wheel ever comes off? Do you think we ever get to the point where it is completely second nature or what, like, what's your thought on that?
No, because I think to what, to your points, there are times, on the subway when I don't want to be involved in information, in external present information. So the thing, so it becomes this kind of inflow, outflow valve. So I can minimally breathe or hold my breath and not take information in or avoid information. The way it happens with me now is I'm noticing more when I'm not in active breath, meaning that when I'm not in this flow state of, inhaling and then immediately exhaling and immediately inhaling, which again, if there's nothing going on around me, if I'm just sitting watching television, that's a very unnatural way of breathing, right? We don't breathe that way normally. We're just, we exhale, we hold a little bit or pause at the bottom a little bit. And the brain says, hey, you need some, air. So then we inhale, and it's a very uneven thing that's going on. Unlike when we're sleeping, it's much more even, ironically, because there's probably less interruption consciously happening in our frame of awareness. All you out there, if you sleep with a partner, once they fall asleep, put your hands on their ribs, and it's going to be amazing what you feel move and consistently move, as long as there's no, obstruction with their breathing, et cetera, et cetera. And then put your hands on their ribs when you're having a conversation with them in the kitchen one day or whatever, and you'll feel almost nothing happening. As far as what you felt when they were sleeping. But much like with Shakespeare, when the rhythm is a little off, it usually means something out of the ordinary is occurring. So when if I'm in life and I find myself holding a lot, what happens now is I start to think, okay, what is going on that I don't want to be present for this information? And so I start to investigate, and that could be, I might be monologuing in my head. I might be having judgments. I might be afraid, but there's something that is informationally that is happening in the present, or an anticipation of something might be happening in the near future, or something just happened that I can't let go of. That's really causing me to hold my breath. And getting me more into that prefrontal cortex, that analysis part of my brain, which minimal breath, in and out actually facilitates a little bit more, it seems. So it's really more now when I'm not in this kind of flow state, I start to look around and think, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I can make a decision. If I want to get involved in what is going on, then I get involved in it. If I don't, then I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. I found when I was in the CERT program, I was bartending at the same time, or maybe shortly after CERT, and I'd just be standing at the bar, in a quiet moment, and realize I had my lips sealed and my lower third, which is to say my abdomen tensed, which also meant probably that I wasn't breathing, and I would just I would clock that. And I would release it, and I'd, just slightly open my lips, release the lower third, and that would give me the opportunity to go, what was I so focused on? Why was I sort of blocked from present information? What was I trying to avoid? Or, again, curiosity, right? I now get to go and do a little bit of forensics on that.
Yeah.
Not that I need to be taking in present information constantly behind the bar, but you know what I mean? It's just, it's interesting to develop that mechanism.
Yeah, I think it's really important not to vilify holding your breath or to, raise up this idea that this is the correct way of breathing and this is the perfect, and you're so-and-so because you can breathe this way or you're not. We're not saying that at all. We're just trying to make some connections of what's happening in the moment of your life, and how that connects to your breath cycle. And then, having obviously the agency to do with it what you want, but bringing some more awareness to those realities.
One kind of shameless plug that I would love to share about the MVM work is that if you really are interested in changing your life, this awareness is something that has, at least for me, allowed me to say, this is either a relationship or a situation or a dynamic where I don't feel like I actually have the agency to do what I want to do, or what I think, when I really think about the grand scheme of my life, is actually best for me. And it's given me space, truly just space, to make decisions so that I don't feel like I'm on the receiving end of my life so much as really more so in the driver's seat. And it's so kind of baffling to me that a way of breathing and a way of being in the world, that this little thing can really kind of expand huge horizons in ways that I didn't expect. So just to circle back to your question about that, Kyle, how it's affected my personal life. If you really want to change your life and feel like you're more in the driver's seat, I have found that this work is really useful for that. Or useful for me to say actually, no, this is not something I'm interested in changing. I'm okay with this thing staying exactly as it is. But I tend to not make decisions. Once I have an awareness, I'm like, oh, well, now I have this information. Therefore, I'm responsible for this information. And then my subsequent decisions are informed by that knowledge, which has been pretty cool.
Yeah. And what's for me, what's really exciting about the tool is, we have this phrase, change is a breath away. It quite literally is. It's not like, you need to do your 10 minutes in the morning and you hope that it stays with you throughout the day, or you had a tough day and now you got to come down from it. No, we're talking about tools that are actually available to you moment to moment while you're under duress, while you're in whatever kind of situation that you can actually use and use privately. No one is really going to notice anything that you're doing differently. And you're not checking your watch. You're not checking your Whoop. You're not, it's something that you're noticing yourself and you're deciding what to do about it in the moment.
Listen, Sarin, can you tell us about the information about Coriolanus one more time, and then we'll wrap it up here.
Yes. So I will be in Coriolanus at Theater for a New Audience from February 1st through March 1st of this year, 2026. So yeah, please come and watch me maybe apply some of the active breath stuff if you're curious.
Wow.
Who knows?
Always an attempt.
I'm curious. Who knows? No promises, but that will be what I will mostly be working on sometimes.
Excellent. If you are interested, fair listener, in learning a little bit about these techniques and maybe applying them in your life, we have a couple of courses coming up. I will be teaching an Essentials for Acting class starting on January 26th. It's going to run 8 weeks on Zoom. We have 2 sections. One is 12 to 2:30 in the afternoon Eastern Time. One is 6:30 to 9 in the evening, again, Eastern Time. And we also have the MVM Gym, which is just a 1-hour drop-in class that's available for anyone. That's going to be Wednesday evenings, 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Saturdays, 11 a.m. to noon. And that's running January 28th to March 21st. All of the information about those are on our website, MVM, MillerVoiceMethod.com. That's what it is.
That's it.
And Scott, did you want to say anything about CERT? It looks like on the website we have a couple of sneak peek sessions coming up.
Yeah,
I have the
we
dates
have
in front of me if you'd like me to say them, unless you have them.
I do not, so please feel free.
So we have Monday, January 12th at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, and then Tuesday, January 27th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, and then Saturday, February 7th at 12:15 p.m. Eastern. And so
And
the
that's
sneak
for
peek,
for our level 1, starting level 1 in the teacher certification process, which has 4 levels that you can complete inside of a year, or you can take longer. It depends on how you want to do it. But that first, the way we like to go about it is start a conversation. It's not an application. You fill out a 1-page information form. We call you and then we have a conversation, whether it makes sense to be involved in the certification program or do something else or not. But that's how we approach it. We're looking for people who are interested, but things have to align. Everything has to align the way it needs to align, time-wise, financially, interests, where you are in your life and your career, et cetera. So we have that conversation. Yeah.
Awesome. Sarin, thank you so much for joining us on this, our second episode of Active Breath, the MVM podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to have spoken to you all. And I also highly recommend the MVM certification program for those who are interested. I just completed my first part of the course, the first of 4, and it's been transformational for me.
Awesome.
Yes. Thanks,
Cool.
Sarin. Great
Yay,
hearing you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Sarin.
y'all.
Thanks, Scott. We'll connect soon, and we'll get another episode out in due time.